You were never bad with money. You were just never shown what your numbers were actually trying to do with it. There are specific numbers in your chart, coded into the day you arrived on this earth. Numbers that carry what the destiny matrix system calls wealth frequency. And most numerology channels won't touch this because the truth isn't think positive and abundance flows. The truth is darker, more specific, and far more powerful than that. Today, we decode the wealth numbers that have quietly shaped your entire financial reality. The ones that create millionaires when they're understood, and invisible ceilings when they're not. This is based on the ancient destiny matrix system, and it gets uncomfortable before it gets clear. Stay with me. The number 1. In Pythagorean numerology, this is the frequency of the sovereign, the initiator, the one who does not wait for permission. In the destiny matrix framework, rooted in Kabbalistic and tarot traditions, the one energy sits at the apex of what's called the power center. It is the energy of pure original force. If one appears in your life path, your birthday, or your destiny matrix diagonal, you carry this. When this energy flows, you don't pitch ideas, you declare them. Rooms shift when you speak. Money follows authority, and authority is what the one radiates. Naturally. The millionaires who built things from nothing, who started in a garage, a bedroom, a rented desk, many of them carry the one frequency, not because they were lucky, because they were first. But when this energy is blocked, the one turns inward. It becomes ego without execution, pride that refuses to start. Because starting means risking failure. You've probably felt it, the brilliant idea that stayed in your head for 3 years, while someone else built it and got rich. That's not laziness. That's one energy in its shadow. Sovereignty. That became paralysis. The number 1 doesn't need more preparation. It needs a decision. Most people see the number 2 and think partnership, sensitivity, the quiet one. They're missing the entire financial architecture of this number. In the destiny matrix system, the 2 energy governs what's called the receptivity channel, the energetic capacity to receive wealth, not just chase it. Pythagorean tradition describes 2 as the number of magnetism, of attraction, of sacred duality. If 2 appears in your core positions, you were not built to earn through force. When 2 flows, wealth comes through connection, through collaboration, through being in the right room with the right person at the right moment. And you didn't manufacture that moment, it found you. The 2 frequency carries what some esoteric traditions call a golden thread, an invisible network of relationships that, when activated, moves resources towards you in ways that look like luck to everyone watching. But in shadow, the 2 collapses into overgiving, into undercharging, into the pattern of doing extraordinary work, and somehow never quite asking for what it's worth. You've probably been told you're too nice for business. That's not a personality flaw. That's 2 energy that hasn't learned the difference between generosity and self-erasure. There is a version of you that receives as powerfully as it gives. That version is not far away. If what I'm describing feels like you, stay until the end. I'll tell you how to go 12 layers deeper than any video can show you. Does this sound familiar? Because it gets deeper. The numbers we've covered so far, they're the visible layer, the ones most charts will show you. What comes next, most people never find out about. The number 3. In Pythagorean numerology, 3 is the number of creative synthesis, the point where 2 forces meet and produce something that didn't exist before. In the destiny matrix framework, 3 governs the expression portal, the channel through which soul-level gifts move into the material world. This is one of the most misunderstood wealth numbers in existence. When 3 flows, you create things that don't have a category yet. You see combinations nobody else sees. The 3 frequency produces artists who become empires, designers, speakers, writers, builders of culture. Wealth for the 3 doesn't come from following a market. It comes from making one. Some interpretations in esoteric tradition describe the 3 as the number of the divine architect, the one who builds with vision, not blueprints. In shadow, the 3 scatters, 15 ideas, 3 unfinished projects, a graveyard of almost launches, and I'll get back to that. The creative force that should be building an empire is spending itself on distraction. You feel the energy, you feel the pull towards something great, but it never quite lands. That's not a character flaw. That's 3 energy without a container. Give it 1. If you carry the 4, you already know how this feels. You work harder than almost anyone around you. You are the structure, the foundation, the one people lean on without asking. And somewhere along the way, probably early, you started to wonder if this was just your fate, to carry, to build, to hold things up for others while your own dreams waited. In the destiny matrix system, 4 occupies the material anchor, the energy center that connects the soul's purpose directly to the physical plane. Pythagorean numerology describes 4 as the number of the builder, the master of form. When 4 flows, this energy becomes something extraordinary. The 4 doesn't build fast. The 4 builds permanent. While other numbers chase trends, the 4 constructs legacies, real estate, institutions, systems that outlive their creator. The wealth of the 4 is generational, not a windfall, but a foundation. And foundations don't collapse. In shadow, the 4 becomes rigid. It mistakes the blueprint for the building. It waits for the perfect plan before moving. And the perfect plan never quite arrives. You've probably felt the weight of responsibility nobody asked you to carry, and wondered why it's always you. That weight is real, but it's also the same force that, when directed consciously, makes you the most powerful builder in any room. The 4 doesn't get lucky. The 4 becomes the luck that other people find. Have you felt this pull your entire life? That sense that you are meant for something larger than what's currently in front of you? Most people call that restlessness. Your destiny matrix calls it something else entirely. The number 5 should not work. By every conventional financial model, stability, discipline, long-term planning, the 5 frequency is a liability. And yet, in the destiny matrix system, 5 governs the freedom portal, the energetic axis of change, movement, and what certain esoteric traditions describe as divine disruption. Pythagorean numerology places 5 at the center of the number grid for a reason. It touches everything. It connects everything. When 5 flows, wealth arrives through movement, through the pivot nobody saw coming, through the deal closed in a different city, the client found on a different continent, the opportunity that appeared because you said yes to something uncertain. The 5 frequency creates wealth through velocity, and velocity cannot exist without change. Some of the most dramatic wealth reversals in human history carry the fingerprint of 5 energy. Properly channeled, in shadow, the 5 becomes addiction to the next thing. Money made and immediately dissolved. Brilliant opportunities that evaporate because the 5 was already chasing the next one. You've probably felt it. The feast and famine cycle that makes no logical sense, given how capable you actually are. That's not a money problem. That's 5 energy that hasn't found its anchor point. The 5 doesn't need to slow down. It needs one fixed point to orbit around. Find that, and the velocity becomes wealth. Everything I just described is only the surface of your wealth frequency. Your full destiny matrix has 12 more energy centers. Your karma portal, your love blueprint, your abundance zone, and the specific block that's been sitting in your financial energy since birth. I create personal readings on Etsy. The link is in the description. One reading, your entire soul blueprint. Because knowing your number is one thing. Knowing exactly how it's working in your specific chart, that's where everything changes. The 6 carries something the other numbers don't. It carries devotion. In the Destiny Matrix framework, 6 sits at the heart of what's called the Harmony Center, the energetic space where love, responsibility, and beauty intersect. Pythagorean numerology describes 6 as the number of cosmic balance, of the caretaker who sees what's broken and cannot look away. When 6 flows, wealth arrives through service that transforms, the healer who becomes a brand, the designer who makes things feel right in ways others can't explain, the teacher, the counselor, the builder of community. These are 6 archetypes, and when they're aligned, people pay extraordinary amounts to be near what the 6 creates. Not for the product, for the feeling. In shadow, the 6 gives until it depletes, then wonders why it's exhausted and underpaid. You've probably structured your entire professional life around what others need from you, and quietly buried what you need in return. The 6 in shadow confuses sacrifice with virtue. It has been told in 1,000 subtle ways that wanting abundance is somehow selfish. It is not selfish, it is necessary, because a depleted 6 cannot give what it came here to give. The 7 doesn't trust what it can't understand. This is both its greatest gift and its most expensive habit. In the Destiny Matrix system, 7 governs the Wisdom Gate, the energy center connected to deep knowing, pattern recognition, and what certain arcane traditions describe as the sight. Pythagorean numerology calls 7 the most spiritual of numbers, the seeker, the analyst, the one who looks beneath the surface of everything. When 7 flows, wealth arrives through expertise so deep it becomes rare. The 7 becomes the person everyone calls when the problem is impossible. The strategist, the researcher, the one who sees the pattern 3 moves ahead. In certain esoteric traditions, 7 is described as the number of the sacred investigator, and sacred investigators command extraordinary fees for what they know. In shadow, the 7 disappears into its own mind. It researches instead of launches. It perfects instead of publishes. It knows, deeply knows, what to do, and cannot seem to cross the distance between knowing and doing. You've probably spent years becoming exceptional at something and still felt like you weren't ready to charge what you're worth. You were ready years ago. The 7's shadow isn't ignorance. It's the fear of being seen by a world it doesn't entirely trust. We're almost at the most important number in this entire reading, the one that almost nobody's about, the one that, when it appears in your chart, changes everything we've discussed. Stay with me. If you carry the 8, you already know this isn't a gentle number. You've probably lost and rebuilt more than once. And somewhere in that cycle, in the loss and the rebuilding, you started to wonder if you were cursed or tested or simply unlucky in ways you couldn't explain. You weren't any of those things. In the Destiny Matrix system, 8 governs what's called the karmic power center, the most direct intersection of soul-level contracts and material world manifestation. Pythagorean numerology describes 8 as the number of infinite cycles, The lemniscate, the figure 8, the symbol of eternity rotated on its axis and placed in time. The 8 doesn't come to give you ease, it comes to give you mastery. When 8 flows, there is no ceiling. The 8 frequency carries more documented cases of extraordinary financial reversal from nothing to empire than almost any other number. Because the 8 doesn't build on luck, it builds on force, on a kind of relentless energetic pressure that, when properly directed, moves mountains. Certain esoteric traditions describe the 8 as the number of the cosmic executive, the soul that came to demonstrate what's possible when power is claimed consciously. In shadow, the 8 becomes the cycle it was trying to break. Boom and collapse, control and chaos. The desperate grip of someone who knows they're meant for abundance, but can't stop the pattern that keeps dismantling it. You've probably built something real, only to watch it fall apart in ways that felt almost designed to humble you. They were, but the humbling was never the destination. It was the curriculum. The 8 that survives its own shadow becomes something the other numbers quietly orbit around. The 9 is the last number. And in the destiny matrix system, in the Pythagorean tradition, in Kabbalistic numerology, the last number is not the weakest. It is the most complete. The 9 governs what the destiny matrix framework calls the completion portal, the energy center of release, transcendence, and what's when 9 flows, wealth becomes almost paradoxical. The 9 accumulates by releasing. It leads by letting go of the need to be seen leading. It builds movements, not businesses, legacies, not careers. The 9 frequency carries an extraordinary capacity for influence, the quiet, gravity well kind that pulls resources and people toward it without force. In certain traditions, the 9 is described as the number of the humanitarian architect, and humanitarian architects do not lack for abundance when they're aligned. In shadow, the 9 refuses to release what's already finished. It carries grief for past versions of itself, for paths abandoned, for eras that ended, for identities that no longer fit. And it mistakes that grief for wisdom. You've probably held on to something long past its expiration, a career, a partnership, a version of success that was someone else's definition, because letting go felt like failure. It was never failure, it was graduation. And the 9 that graduates inherits everything that was waiting on the other side of the release. Here is what your numbers have always known. Wealth is not a reward for the right personality. It is not a prize for the most disciplined, the most positive, the most deserving. It is a frequency, and your frequency was coded into you before you had language for it. The 1 that builds empires, the 2 that magnetizes, the 3 that creates new worlds, the 4 that raises foundations, the 5 that moves like water, the 6 that serves and transforms, the 7 that knows what others can't see, the 8 that rebuilds from ruins, the 9 that releases and receives. Every one of these numbers has a shadow. Every one of them has an aligned state that most people never fully inhabit because nobody ever showed them what they were carrying. Now you know. The question is what you do with it. Comment your life path number below. I read every single one. If you want your complete destiny matrix reading, all 12 energy centers, your karmic portal, your wealth zone, your specific shadow pattern, the Etsy link is in the description. One reading, built for you specifically, not a template. Your chart, I'll see